pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have the roll call, on behalf of the board, I'd like to offer our condolences to our colleague and fellow board member, Mr. Ramos, lost his daughter. And it's a tragic thing to happen, especially with all of the surrounding and all the things that are going around, that we send him a very heartfelt pésame, as they say in Spanish. Roll call.
Ms. Salcho? Here. Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Dr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Breen?
Here. Public comments. Hopefully we have some. Ms. Samaniego?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members, and community. We do have several comments. And this one is, I request permission to address the governing board on the following item. Respected members of the board and other stakeholders, thank you for the opportunity to address the school board with my concern in reference to the proposed reopening of DUSD schools for fourth quarter. While I recognize that this is a very difficult decision, and I acknowledge that I support reopening our schools due to my students' unique need for in-person learning, I admit to a very real concern: universal masking compliance. At this point, teachers have been allowed to teach safe space students in their classroom while not wearing a mask. Some IAs in those classrooms have also chosen not to wear a mask. Administrators and staff with offices have been allowed to remain unmasked when others are not in their offices. All of this has been allowed due to the concept of social distancing, and I am concerned that these practices will continue to be permissible upon school reopening. I have two concerns. First, the problematic do as I say and not as I do approach to behavior modification, and second, the so-called social contract. We are proposing to welcome back students, and I would like to think that we are also to do so using all mitigation strategies at our disposal. Is it on, Marco? Universal masking is an effective and inexpensive strategy. First, as educators, we all know that over the years, do as I say, not as I do, strategy has been disproven as a reliable behavioral management strategy. If our goal is to ensure students wear masks, we need to model this behavior accordingly, assiduously in every area of our school. When students encounter teachers and other staff not wearing masks, it causes them to question when they need to wear one. It is confusing to be told to do something and witness those who should be leaders and role models to refuse to do so with consequence. The friendly parent liaison who wears the mask beneath her nose, the helpful janitor taking a break in the bathroom vestibule, the IA who enforces procedures, etc. It creates cognitive dissonance difficult for adults, much less for children to process. Second, the social contract of I wear a mask to protect you, you wear a mask to protect me is still valid. While wearing a mask may provide some protection to the wearer, it protects others from catching the virus. When that contract is violated regularly, it raises a question of why some or many are not worthy of being protected by the few. Currently, our in-person population is mainly at risk for special ed students and the staff that supervises them. Are they unworthy of every possible protection? If schools reopen, will this current practice and therefore message extend to all students? If so, I believe the wiser course for our students and staff is to remain safely online. Currently, teachers are outnumbered by the students and staff they are permitted to put at risk of exposure. This will only be greater when schools reopen. Social distancing or not, we all share the same air. For all the above-mentioned reasons, I believe universal masking should be instituted and enforced in all DUSD buildings to increase successful schools reopening. That is...
Who was that from?
Hold on. This is Tricia Clinch, 1620 West Newell Street in Naco. This next one is, it's a student. My name is Emily Gonzalez. I strongly believe spring sports should be follow through with the season. I believe we have seen enough of the fall sports, which fortunately had the opportunity to play a few games to understand there will be several new sanitation and COVID rules to proceed with any sport. We all fully understand it will not be the same as previous years, and there will be new modifications to play. Spring sports include boys and girls tennis, track and field, baseball, and softball, which none do not make direct contact with other players. Each spring sports social distances without even knowing. For track and field, I think it would be best to have limited team members in the sport in general and have only 3 to 4 runners at a time depending on the group they are in. Softball and baseball players only come in contact with other schools while running bases. With both helmets and masks, it will decrease the chance of contaminating others. Although not everyone has gotten tested for COVID, it would be a good idea if all spring sports players and coaches would get tested 2 weeks before any practice to make sure no one has it without knowing. For tennis, we social distance all the time while we're playing and practicing since it is mainly an individual sport. Therefore, I believe spring sports should proceed with the season while having new rules and regulations to play. Thank you. And that was Emily Gonzalez, and she is a DHS student. Next one is Victoria Valenzuela, DHS student. Dear Douglas School Board members, I, along with the rest of the class of 2021 spring athletes, urge you to consider letting our season begin on March 1st. As a senior and a returning spring athlete, the school year has been devastating. Everything my fellow classmates and I have been looking forward to for the last 4 years has been slowly taken away. But our senior year approaches its end. As our senior year approaches its end, we still have spring sports to look forward to. For some, it will be the last time stepping onto a field, court, or track. For others, it's one last opportunity to make future out of their sport. Returning to the field for my last season would mean the world to me and other seniors. We understand how much different our season would be due to certain circumstances, and we are more than willing to cooperate with whatever new rules and regulations are set in place. I hope you take these aspects into consideration and give us all the last season we deserve. Let us represent our school and community one last time. This is from another DHS student, Paulette Vildosola. Dear School Board, my name is Paulette Vildosola and I am a member of the Student Athlete Leadership Council. I have been playing tennis since my freshman year and have been fortunate enough to be part of the varsity team those 3 years. Those 3 years I have pushed myself to make it into state, and when I thought it was going to make it my last year, my season was cut short. All I want is for my senior year is to play the sport I love and hopefully make it to state. As a leader, I will make sure my teammates and I follow rules and regulations when it comes to our practices and meets. I truly believe that spring sports should follow through with a season. Thank you for your time and consideration. Another DHS student, and this is Francisco Parra. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Francisco Parra. I am a senior athlete for track and field. I am a thrower who unfortunately got my junior track year taken away, which impacted my athletic career because I was not able to get better marks so that I could get noticed by scouts. I am writing to the board because I believe with just hard work and cooperation with our fellow teammates as well as our coaches, we could have the season we all missed last year. Baseball, softball, track and field. I am part of the Student Athlete Leadership Council, and I represent swimming, but I am also in track, as I stated previously. But I like to see myself as a leader in track for my events, my group, the throwers, and I believe we could make this season work. Thank you for your consideration and have a great day. This is from Taylor Hernandez, and she is a student. I have realized not physically going to school has impacted me and many other students over these couple of months. At first, it did not impact me as much, but since I started to see everything get postponed and moved to next year, it was just horrible. None of the seniors this year got to do anything of their last year of school. As a junior, I don't want another year to be like this. Being in sports motivated me to get good grades, be in extracurricular activities or clubs, even though I do not have outstanding grades right now. I do miss traveling, having practice, and just being with my teammates. Even if we do get to go hybrid, it is a start. It allows me to have hope that next year will get better. Thank you for your time. Taylor Hernandez. This is Estebany Rojas, DHS student. My name is Estebany Rojas, and I am writing this letter because I would like everything to be close to normal again. It is very stressful for your life to just drastically change with being a global pandemic. I feel that everything is being taken under control by now, since it has already been almost a year since we've been in quarantine. I'm sure if you guys decide to let students go back to school, that you could figure something out with coronavirus and know how to take safe precautions with not only the students but everyone. I say this because we are more familiar with the virus, and I feel like we know now how to handle it better than, let's say, 6 months ago. I feel so emotionally exhausted being at home. I miss the sports especially. Due to the coronavirus, I lost my season last year for softball. I don't want to lose it again. It's been really hard not to play the sport I love for my high school years. I have a niece in Tucson. She has been going to school for a while now, with some precautions, of course. I feel like you guys should do the same thing. I know I'm not the only one wanting this. I hope the spring season does not get canceled again. Sincerely, Stephanie Rojas. This is Faye Rodriguez, a DHS student. Dear Board, I understand why we aren't going to school right now because of COVID. If we're not careful of what we do to try not to get sick or spread it, we would not be able to go back to school and have spring sports back. I do believe that we could go back to school because now we have a vaccine for COVID-19, which helps the United States a lot. We can do hybrid or an A day, B day, so us students can get a better education and the understanding of the work we are doing for our classes. Sometimes when we're doing our virtual online classes, it's not that always easy for our students. Many of us struggle on virtual classes. Sometimes when I don't understand something and I email my teachers, it sometimes takes them a while to answer. I understand that teachers are very busy and stressful most of the time, but I do believe that it would help me better and other students and make it easier if we were actually able to see them in person and talk to them, instead of waiting a day or two for them to email the students back about our question for school. I believe it would help me a lot in my education if I was able to talk to my teacher in person and see them and ask them about my assignments or any work for their class. I'm able to do well on virtual classes, but I would rather be in school so that I could better my education. I understand that sports are a very big problem due to COVID by having us travel. What we're going to eat, being around other people while playing, and how close we are to each other. But we can also be careful on how to keep everything we touch sanitized, wear masks all the time, be careful on everything we do. Without sports, there isn't really nothing to do but stay home. I still go walk my dogs, ride my bike, but I would like to play the sport I grew up wanting to play and training to be good on that sport. Sports would always keep me active, wanting to always do my best, give it my all. I hope we can come back to school and be safe and get our sports back as well. Thank you. And that's the last one.
That's the last one. You know, after hearing that, members of the board, we did, under the protocol and phases that were promulgated by the AIA, we did allow them to come back in football, basketball, and all of the fall sports. And I don't know what the recommendation is going to be here tonight regarding the learning, but I think I'd be willing to, I don't know about the rest of the board, to allow those kids to come back for spring sports if we follow the proper protocol and all of the AIA recommendations. So we'll get to that later, and that will be part of, if there's a motion later to change or to approve something different, as long as it's on the agenda, then we can address that at the same time. All right, we're back here today, and after the last virtual meeting, and this isn't impugning our technological staff or anybody, but we did have some glitches, and some board members couldn't be heard, and some board members couldn't be seen, and I think it was frustrating not only to us, but it was also frustrating to the community. With the new information, I think, coming from the administration, I thought it would be worthwhile to have us come in at the proper protocol and do this as we're doing it today so that we can address it the way I think we should. So with that, we're on item 2, and that's discussion action, if needed, on recommendation from the administration regarding distance learning with consideration of hybrid schedule for the fourth quarter. Ms. Samaniego.
Governing board members, as you know, last week we discussed and I provided some data for you all to consider. And at that moment, we did not have our student responses or any parent feedback that was done recently. So what we did is we conducted a survey for our students and our parents, and I have that data to share with you. But before I do that, I want to reiterate that last week, the recommendation that I had was simply based on the data that I had and the teachers' thoughts and the classified staff. And knowing what we know about the importance of education, I strongly feel that we need to consider in-person learning. But I'm going to share with you, just to repeat, I will repeat last week's data so that it's fresh in your mind in response to what our teachers and our classified staff feel. And then I will share with you what our parents and students, at least those that answered. So to reiterate, we did a survey of our staff, and high school 69% felt that we should remain online. 69% of the certified staff and 64% of the classified staff. The middle school task force for reopening schools, felt that we were ready to start school. They felt very strongly about hybrid and wished that we could do either the 5 days a week or online and not have to fulfill a hybrid model, which is 2 days of in-person instruction and 3 days of online. That was, the middle school. And then elementary, we had 49% or 59.9% of our staff felt that we should continue online, and 40.1% felt that we needed to remain and start in-person instruction, whether it be some kind of a hybrid model. So that was our school. Mrs. Cox and Mrs. Walker, I gave them the task of doing the surveys, and for our parents, which I think is an important group of individuals in our community that have a lot to say. Unfortunately, and we did leave the survey on for about 3 days, Mrs. Cox. Out of all of our parents, which clearly we have 3,800 students enrolled, only 687 parents responded. So that the result from that survey was 64% of the parents felt that we should remain distance learning, and 36% felt that we should open for some type of in-person. Again, only 687 parents responded. Now, students, I have a breakdown by school. I'm going to start with elementary. For Clawson Elementary, we had 115 students respond. 57% at Clawson want in-person learning, while 43% prefer the distance. Ferris Elementary, 65% prefer distance and 35% in-person. Joe Carlson, 52% in-person, 48% prefer distance. For Sarah Marley, 73% chose distance, 27% in person. Stevenson, 58% distance, 42% in person. Huber, 57% distance, 43% in person. RBMS, 59% distance, 41% in person. And Douglas High School, 58% distance learning and 42% in person. Now, mind you, I wish we had more students respond. It's not as nearly as many as I would have liked to, but based on the students that did respond, that is the information that I have for you today. Now, and I know this decision is not easy. It's not easy for me. It's not easy, for us for you as a governing board. But bottom line, we are here for kids, and I feel that our kids in our community in Douglas have strongly suffered, have greatly suffered the consequences of this pandemic. And it is not a pandemic or not a situation that any of us created. And we are I would hope that you all believe that we are in a better place than we were, like the student said 6 months ago. School is a place not only for learning, but it is a place where kids learn how to socialize. The more I talk to our admin team, and I had a meeting last week after the board decided to have another meeting, and the concerns are valid. I'm not going to dismiss the concerns of the staff, of bringing the virus, of parents sending the children sick to school. It's happening right now in the learning spaces. The more we tell, as much as we remind parents to not send their children to school sick, you're always going to have the one or two parents that are not going to keep them at home, and they're going to send them sick. But I think we have enough protocols in place and procedures that we can address those children and immediately handle the situation. All schools have isolation rooms that those kids can be separated, and then we try to reach the parents and send them home. If it has to mean that our security or our parent liaison, or along with the school nurse, can drive them home, as long as somebody is there, then we take care of that. And so we're not dismissing the fears of our staff. I think DUSD has really done enough to support all of our staff at the times that it was most difficult. Obviously we weren't ready to open up in August. We extended it another semester, another quarter, and did the whole first semester without kids being in school. And what I find is that distance learning is really a one-sided model. Distance learning does allow the kids to go to school because it's an executive order under the learning spaces. Yet those kids cannot be in a teacher's classroom. The students in the learning spaces are being supervised and supported by the instructional support staff. So we have adults dealing with these children day in and day out. They're in contact with them. They sit close to them. They assist them with computer needs. They assist them with learning needs. So people are in contact with our students. It's not the teachers that are in direct contact, but it's the instructional support staff. And so, therefore, I think that with the mitigation, with the procedures that we have in place, and we're not perfect. We have, we have to get better at things, especially wearing the mask and sanitizing. And it's going to be, if allowed to start hybrid, it will be a quarter of reassuring and teaching the kids the procedures that we have in place, because they haven't been in school for a year. March the 6th, it'll be a year that we haven't not been in school. And so I would like the opportunity to allow some of our kids to have some in-person learning. We know that we all have concerns. Not every staff is going to be vaccinated, but then the vaccine is not mandated for everybody. So we already know there's staff that are not going to they don't want the vaccine. Children will be probably the last ones to get vaccinated. We know that's happening here in Douglas, and it's happening, in California. And so when those things that are not in our control, they're still not going to be in our control in August. And so what are we going to do then? Our teachers have worked extremely hard to get good at being technology savvy. And they've risen to the challenge, and I know they can do this. And I know that with the mitigation and the procedures we have in place, and hopefully the cooperation of our parents, we can offer in-person instruction at least that last quarter and give us an opportunity to reinstate, learning in person, reinstate socialization with, the proper things that we have in place. So we've done from smaller class sizes. We planned that since, July. What that looks like at the high school is probably a little bit different than at the elementary, because we know that the high school is the largest campus. We also know that we have bought PPE equipment. We have bought sanitizing gel and gloves and sprays and, everything that we can, we've prepared for. We just haven't had to use it that much because we don't have kids in classrooms. So as I look over at our learning space numbers and who is attending school, I think that's a good indicator of who may send their kids to in-person learning. It's probably the kids that are already going to school for the safe learning space. They're just not being, they're not in the classroom being given direct instruction by teachers. And when I met with my admin team, that's how most of them felt, that's the case. The kids that need to go to school are the kids that are attending school right now. And so if in-person is allowed, then obviously we would, go to the plans that we had originally created, which was either that following that A and B model, or as I explained last week, most of the admin felt that instead of going back from the 4 days of virtual instruction to only 2 days of in-person learning, we could potentially look at the numbers, and if parents obviously would give us information as to what their decision is about going to in-person or staying online, we could have a clear, definite number of how many kids that we are expecting and make those plans accordingly to the number of kids that it will be attending. I think our teachers have been physically, mentally exhausted in this way of teaching, and a lot of our staff has already been vaccinated. A lot of our staff is awaiting to get their vaccine. So we are definitely in a better place than we were 6 months ago. The fears are still there. This is not going away. But I think we owe it to our kids at least to give them that opportunity, because the online doesn't offer any it's a one-way model. The hybrid will still allow parents to keep their kids online if they choose to keep them online. And I believe most of our parents, just based on the 687 that responded, will keep their kids online. There's a lot of children at home without any parent supervision right now. There's a lot of us that work. And most of the kids don't have that support system. High school kids, they've done well overall. They've done well with the online model. They are self-learners. They're a little bit older. But when you start thinking of the many elementary kids that are sitting at home without any guidance or support, they're home alone. And so it is a tough decision to make. But that's pretty much how what I would ask the board to consider.
Would you give the totals of, you broke it down by schools?
Yes.
If you could give the totals just in those groups of in favor, not in favor.
Okay. All right. So parents, it was 64% in favor.
In favor?
You want in favor of in-person or in favor of distance learning?
No, yeah. Those that are, the way you broke it down with students and staff by school.
Okay.
In favor of returning and in favor of staying the way we are.
Okay, so Clausen, we have
No, totals.
total.
The totals of all of them together. In other words, all schools, just give us the numbers of all the people that were in favor with parents and students. Break it down that way.
Denise, did you break it down by number, or she has it by percentage? So she has it by
percentage. Just give us a percentage so that the board has a better picture of what we're looking at.
Okay.
She says you have it.
Yeah, no, I have the information here, but it's broken down by school with percentage.
Okay, can you do that, though, so that we can get the big picture and just say, parents are 75 in favor of coming back and 25 not, but so that we can just see the big picture? That would be question number one. You don't have to do, let somebody else do that while we're deliberating here, and I think,
Because she did the survey and she has broken down by school.
okay. All right, open it up, board members' reactions. Dr. Gomez, you're first this time because you're sitting over there.
Okay. Well, you all know how I feel. But, and just to begin with, if you've heard the news, the Chicago schools are telling the teachers they have to go and they're going to open. Okay?
Yes.
From what I can understand, the only one in Tucson that is not really open is TUSD. So somebody's going to school, all right? The other thing that I question is the teachers at the high school, and you say that they fear. What do they fear? In other words, the only place that they're going to get infected is at school? That's where they're going to get positive tests on COVID? Not anywhere else in Douglas? Not anywhere else with their friends or their family?
And I don't think it's just, Dr. Ed, the high school. It's just, when I say fears.
Okay, no, I'm not, I know that. But I'm talking specifically about the high school.
Okay.
You know, what do the teachers fear?
I think it's the overall fear of the virus being here and getting infected with it, whether it's the kids bringing it from their homes into the school. I think that's it. Because
But-
we all know.
But my question then is that the only place that they're going to get infected? No. So you know, it makes no sense. If they're going to stay quarantined in their house and not go out, then I can understand that fear. But that's not the point. And I think, deep down in my heart, that this year has been a non-year. And we're going to find out when the Arizona Merit tests come out how well the students learn for a year. And if they don't do as well as they have done before, then we have put a world of hurt on them by not opening or by not trying. My other point is, you got this money so that you could learn how to sanitize. Okay? And then you said the other day, well, we're going to stay closed till the end of the year. What have we been doing with that money? What have we learned? What have we done? Are we ready? If we were to say, if the governor were to say, okay, you need to go back to school, have we learned enough and ready enough to use those supplies that we have? You see, so like I said the other day at the end of the meeting, I am not in favor of closing the schools till the end of the year.
Ms. Salchow.
Okay, maybe to also answer one of the questions for Dr. Gomez, I understand that some of the high school teachers are very concerned about the mask. When the students all get back to school, it'll be almost like the beginning of school, where they're very excited to see one another. Social distancing will become very hard to enforce. But I also heard somebody say too, what about your leadership teams at the high school? What about your leadership councils? You have your you have your athletic leadership team or council, you have your student council. By putting some of the responsibility on them to encourage, for them to explain, if we fail at being properly masked and taking the precautions, we will lose this opportunity to come back to school. That we incorporate and use our students as that too. It shouldn't just fall on parents, and it shouldn't just fall on teachers. We've heard through letters to the public that these children want to go back to school. They want to get back into their sports. Are they willing to do what it takes? That would be my question. I put it back on the kids to be responsible. If you have high expectations, you will receive high answers in this horrible problem. But I do think that, and I am very concerned about what they're learning and how much they're learning. I mean, very intelligent students learn in spite of. They do. They can have a very hard year, and they will come through with their knowledge because of the way their brains are wired. It's the middle, the lower middle, and that I'm really concerned about. Our students with functional concerns, our students with learning disabilities, they have got really great help with our special ed programs and giving them the services they need. But it's the ones in the middle that I'm really concerned about because, I'm afraid they're falling through the cracks. And as far as sports are concerned, I saw that they were able to have sports in the fall, kind of an abbreviated schedule, and some teams had no issues, other teams did. So it's kind of a toss-up on that. Those are my comments.
I think Dr. Ed was very specific about his feelings one way or the other. You made a lot of cogent remarks there. But how do you feel? I mean, we have to open up before all of the criteria that you mentioned has to kick in. In other words, the students monitoring and the masks and all those things. We have to determine first if we're going to go back and then make sure those things are in place. So how do you feel about do we have the numbers?
Yes.
Before I ask you that question,
Okay.
let me give you the
That's okay.
numbers. Because I want to see them myself.
All right, so total this is the kids for all schools. It was 58% prefer to stay online and 42% in person.
Can I ask you a question about that figure?
Sure, and we'll let
Okay,
Denise.
so when you talk about students, are you talking about elementary?
Everybody. These
Okay,
these
so
are-
do you think that the elementary student filled out that survey or the parent?
I don't know, Dr. Ed.
Well, it would certainly seem to me that would be parent. But go ahead.
And-
That's a good point. We can break that down just to high school. And we already have that by high
Yes,
school.
we already have it. Mhm.
So you could break it down by elementary and high school, and that's what really we wanted anyway. So go ahead.
And so again, 58% said online, 42% said in person. The parent, 64 online and 36 in person. 36.
36% distance. Okay. And then the high school, what was the high school?
And the high school by itself, only 436 students responded, okay? And so that results to 58% responded distance and 42% in person.
And then you don't have a recent, other than the one that you had last week on the teachers, right?
Yes,
So, but let's have the teachers as well.
Okay. And so on average, it was 69% distance learning, and 54% was in person.
Okay.
Okay. So we have the sanitation things in place. And Ms. Samaniego said that we even have a plan in place. Okay? I think my question might be, if we saw more of an outbreak, what would happen then?
Well, I think we have a pretty good model
Yes.
on a much, much smaller scale, what we
Okay.
did in athletics. As soon as the administration saw that there were cases, the administration shut them down. So that would be the same procedure. I would think that.
Yes,
Okay.
and we have enough experience already just dealing with the adults. And so remember that we've had to close down food service because there was an outbreak there. We've had to close down one learning site but leave others open. And so always taking guidance from local health department and using the experience that we already have in this. So we do have a plan. And if it happens, we can deal with it.
Then I am for returning to face-to-face.
Okay, well, I
And-
just, I didn't want, you.
I know,
we're gonna
you're trying
vote-
to-
You're going to vote in a minute, but that's fine.
right.
I would now, well, we need Mr. Lindeman. Mr. Lindeman, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, your reaction to the report, and then any ensuing remarks you want to make.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, it comes to mind that the CDC has not yet officially put out their results on this. The previous recommendation was just a draft, and I heard today that they still haven't put out their official report as to their guidelines. Bringing it back to local, I think that a good step would be to try and put hybrid into the elementary. And my thinking is that I saw the email that state testing is going to require everybody in person.
Yes.
So rather than just try and do the testing on one day and nobody's ready, maybe the good step would be to do hybrid at some levels and then increase, seeing how that will go. It really is important that the kids get back into school at some point, but there again, if we don't have the vaccinations in place, and I fear that what would happen is that we would become our own little super spreader, and that would be terrible for our entire community. So those are my thoughts.
I would, I'd suggest that if you look at the numbers, and they're overwhelmingly in favor of distance, across the board. I agree with Ms. Samaniego, and I agree with the other two board members that have commented. I'm an ex-teacher myself. I know that there's not much learning, and we know that the teachers are busting their butts to do what they can, and I think they're being effective for certain groups. But those that Ms. Salchow you mentioned, and we're very well aware of, that those are the ones that are at risk. If this board feels that, if the majority of the board feels that they want to come back with all of the provisos and all of the rules and regulations and protocols that are in place, that if it's felt by two board members or a majority, I'll go along with it, and I'll tell you why. There is enough controversy and anxiety going on in the country today regarding this, and we don't need to have a split board and make that become an issue, that certain board members voted yes, certain board members voted no, and then the board members got targeted in the administration. So if the board feels that they want to come back under all of the strict guidelines, and I would include sports, because I personally now want to see spring sports come back, because I think that can be controlled on a much smaller scale, and it was more livable. But if this board decides, and from the comments, and Mr. Lindeman, I think he was kind of indicating that he was leaning that way, I'll go along with it myself. But Ms. Samaniego is going to be so sensitive, and I know that she's anguishing over this whole thing anyway, just as a lot of people are, the teachers as well. But that if there's any outbreak, it's not going to be as easy as it was to shut it down because of the learning spaces, because you're going to be talking about more students. And what you're proposing is the hybrid, right? The way you described it.
Mm-hmm.
There's those that want and those and you've thoroughly gone over this with your staff. How long would it take them to incorporate it?
Well, if the proposed plan was to start at as soon as spring break is over, that gives us a whole month, realistically, to prepare and get ready for this. I've done extensive work with my colleagues around Cochise County, and I think I mentioned it last week, and every single one of them that initiated a hybrid model and that had the opportunity since August to do the A and B schedules and the 2 days of in-person and 3 days, strongly felt that after a semester of doing that, that didn't even work. And so what they have said is they've allowed the hybrid model to be as such. Either kids or parents go to school for the 4 days a week, because we know Wednesdays is our distance learning day, or they stay at home and do their online learning. So instead of, at least in the elementary and in the middle school level. High school, because of the high number of population we have at the high school, we would remain with that A and B and that AM and PM schedule. And so it gives me a whole month to implement and refigure what the plans that you already approved early on in the year. And I believe this would be an excellent opportunity because, as I said, hybrid, whatever plan model of hybrid we have, it gives parents options. Parents that want to keep their kids at home will continue to do so. That's not going away. Parents that need to send their kids to school in person will have that opportunity that they haven't had.
And in the interim, if the board were to approve it today, if something were to tragically happen between now and that time, then you would immediately,
notify
and of course, the
the board
board
and-
will give her that authority, as we did before,
Yes.
to make whatever administrative decision would be appropriate at the time until
Yes.
you can get the board back for, if nothing else, informational purposes.
Yes, so elementary and middle school, just to give you an idea, the way they broke down the class sizes and the groups, they did it very intentionally so that even at the middle school, there would be easy contract tracing, even at the middle school where the kids are switching classes. So they have a plan. The elementary is obviously a lot easier because the kids stay with one teacher. Where it gets more complicated is the high school. We can't keep kids by cohort, but we've kept class sizes small enough to be able to diminish the spread and keep all those protocols in place. And if something happens, it's easier to just address it with that one classroom. You wouldn't have to shut down an entire school. The outbreak is not, it may be one student in one classroom, maybe one adult in one classroom. So we've learned enough, wouldn't you say, Mrs. Cox, in just addressing the situation. And definitely, if it were something that I needed to bring back to the board before we even start, then I would definitely do so. And if we have to do anything between March and the end of the school year, where I need to bring it back to the board because we had, a sudden outbreak, then I would definitely bring it to the board as well.
But this is a collaborative recommendation between
Yes.
you and your
And the
entire administrative
administrative.
staff and your administrative team.
Yes.
I feel for teachers. And I'll tell you, Mr. Soto, we know things are not going to look that good with the budget, but I think this board, and I think we just kind of reinforce it here today, that they are working double and triple
They are.
time. They're working way beyond what's expected of a normal teaching career or job. And I really want to look at that, and I think it merits saying it today, that I want to come back with a good recommendation, not only what we've already done to sustain, but to the best of our ability, do as much as we can for those teachers for next year, because they've really, really earned it. They've gone way beyond the call. So, Mr. Lindeman, I didn't quite get a final on you, and of course, your final will be your vote, but do you want to react to those comments, because you're not here to interact with us personally, and you don't have the convenience of sitting here?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I am having trouble hearing the discussion, but I think I could glean enough of it that I can understand the concept. I'm thinking that going to hybrid would be a good first step, and as Ms. Samaniego said, with all the precautions involved and taken, maybe that's we can get back to normal by taking baby steps. That's it.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add administratively, Ms. Samaniego? Any further comment?
No, that's it.
Members of the board independently before we call for the question? So your recommendation is going to be specifically for the record?
My recommendation is to allow DUSD schools to open for in-person learning following a hybrid model with the option of parents to keep their kids online as well.
And with the recommendation that also that spring sports be
Sports.
allowed to start within their guidelines.
Yes.
Entertain a motion to do that.
I move that we accept Mrs. Samanego's recommendation of going to a hybrid type of learning at the beginning of the fourth quarter after the break.
I'm almost done.
And but we keep close contact with her as far as the numbers, or if there's things that we, might change that, but that's my motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second, Ms. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Again, thank you very much, board members. I want to thank the staff, especially Marco and Alma, for all of the work they have to do to put these meetings on. And my initial comments about the meeting last week were in no way being critical. It was just that we're all learning, and I think the problem was with the board members and not you guys. We're not knowing what to do and when to mute and not to mute. And I'm guilty of that more than anybody, because I know the echo was caused probably by me. So anyway, thank you so much. And please, community and parents especially, bear with us. Teachers, you continue to do the good work you're doing, and we're here to support you. And hopefully this doesn't disrupt you too much and cause you more heartaches, but hopefully you shall be rewarded. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Beret, before?
Dr.
Yeah, I want to just make a statement because I was the one that kind of caused everything. I just want to tell the teachers that I completely support them, but in this case, I think I'm supporting the students more, and hopefully that things will work out
Very
as
good.
well as we hope.
Very good. All right, we have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, no vote.
No,
No,
we've already
voted.
voted.
Yes.
And, okay, did you have anything else? when
No,
you
I
got the
just
board
want to
together?
say thank you. Thank you for giving kids an opportunity. They deserve it.
Entertain a motion to adjourn
So move.
by Dr. Gomez, is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salcho. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Adjourn.